Oh joy, Deseret Book is having a summer sale, and while flipping through their mag, you found the coupon for 25% off of any purchase. But what should you buy? A painting? A CD? A new set of scriptures? A BYU-themed Lego set? How about you calm down for 2 seconds and consider a recommendation from the Mormon romance novel book review. Today we're reviewing the contemporary romance Lies Jane Austen Told Me by Julie Wright. Wright is the author of more than 2 Baker's Dozen books, a multiple-time Whitney Award winner and even more times nominee, and the writer of a witty and poignant blog where she's made impactful commentary such as her famous error-establishing database connection post. Just like literally every woman, she's a huge Jane Austen fan and wrote her latest romance not an homage to Austen's settings with their pretty dresses and tailcoats, but her themes with their strong women wrestling with the meaning of true love. The word lies in this title hints at some subversion of the Austenian genre, which is great because book critics are total suckers for subversion of genre. It gets them every time. They love it so much they want to marry it. They write it in the margins of their notebooks during lectures with curly hearts around it, and when they're home they sit by their phones waiting for subversion of genre to ask them out to prom. So come to me, Lies Jane Austen Told Me. Take me in your strong arms and subvert me like you've never subverted before. Emma is the chief marketing officer at a gym company in San Francisco, and she's been assigned to find the ideal location for a new franchise and corresponding marketing campaign in New York City. The girl trying to make it in the big city setting is a different sort than most Mormon romance novelists attempt, but it's one that Wright is well suited for, with her resume as a speaker to writing groups, youths, and schools, and she loves reading, eating, writing, hiking, and hates mayonnaise. So yeah, Wright's lack of experience does certainly spill onto the page as the characters explain their jobs to each other in the most clinical ways while lacking any of the qualities that comprise a company executive. Emma's climb up the corporate ladder has no history, she doesn't have any dangerous ambition and/or a miasma of cynicism, she doesn't struggle with loneliness or an inferiority complex, and doesn't constantly rank human beings in the way that successful people all secretly do. In fact, everyone in her office is more or less all type B personalities, as if none of them have needed to think about their professional lives in years. But that's excusable, because unlike the protagonist from last month, Emma has more than one thing going on in her life. She has a boyfriend, Blake Hampton, a rich and handsome man with an estate and everything. Or rather, I should say she had a boyfriend, Blake Hampton, because early in the story, Emma catches him having dinner with his quote-unquote just a friend female co-worker, and Emma does not have time to deal with that nonsense. She moves on from Blake, getting started on that whole marketing campaign thing I mentioned before when she meets the East Coast advisor her company hired to help her find a property, who's none other than Lucas Hampton, Blake's own brother, a man who not only comes with the awkwardness of Emma's breakup, but a bag of character flaws all his own. Holy Charlotte and Emily Bronte above, I just found a Mormon author that wrote some interesting characters. Let all the awards be given to Julie Wright, the literary mastermind who figured out that maybe if you're writing in a genre about people falling in love, then choosing a plot-driven story over a character-driven one is the dumbest thing you could possibly do. And character-driven it is, because not only does Lies Jane Austen Told Me manage to deftly juggle 2 romantic interests, but the 2 avoid the pitfall of being casted as mustache-twirling villains or infallible beacons of light. They both make mistakes, they both misunderstand, they both have trouble expressing themselves and exploring their own feelings, they both have their charms and promote goodness in their lives in the way that they know how, and when the time comes for Emma to choose one over the other, it's not with a shoehorned last-minute burst of violent drama, but with her saying he's a great guy. Just not great for her. Great characters. Really well done. It's too bad they didn't make it into the story that much. With a solid premise, a novel setting, and complex characters, Lies Jane Austen Told Me is off to a great start. But it's time to get off, kids, because this compliment train has reached its last stop. For while the novel has a pretty good start and an okay ending, the middle is a giant hole of uninteresting plot developments. Basically, the story revolves around Emma trying to decide whether she should allow herself to fall for Lucas, like any self-respecting woman in close physical proximity to a handsome rich man, or give her relationship with Blake another chance. chance. This sort of conflict is fine, but here's the thing. It takes place almost exclusively inside her own head, and it stays there for most of the book. I'm pretty sure the formula Wright followed was event DTR DTR, with the... Hold up, do non-Mormons know what DTR means? I'll spell it out just in case. DTR stands for determine the relationship, and it means to sit down as a couple and have a serious talk about your status as a couple. Whether you're just dating, whether you're officially boyfriend and girlfriend, or possibly whether you're both ready to move on to an engagement and marriage. It's a religious ritual typically performed by Mormons about 7 minutes into the first date, and serves the essential function of killing the mood, stopping things from happening organically, and making sure that everyone is on the same page when it comes to overthinking and anxiety. But as I was saying, lies Jane Austen told me DTRs internally so much that it sort of turns into a system of beats. First someone says something or does something, then Emma brings the action into her own head, sometimes flying into a random emotional state, sometimes questioning the reality of the event itself, often reminding the reader of how she ought to feel on account of the event that just happened, combined with the events that have happened previously, and then completely redefining her relationship with that person based on what was said. Then the person says another thing, and the process begins again, like a bad narrative circle of life. This process reached pointed annoyance in the book when Lucas reveals that he's adopted by saying the single clause sentence, "I'm adopted," and then Emma immediately asks in her narrator head, could it be true that he was adopted? Why would he lie about that, Emma? And more importantly, why are you asking me? How about you listen to Lucas for more than one sentence at a time instead of being shocked about everything, and maybe your questions will be answered and it'll be a shorter book and both of us will be happy. You lied to me, lies Jane Austen told me. You said there would be subversion. You started the book with a great speech about how Emma was breaking up with Jane Austen, about how she would refuse to think of love in the way those Regency romances depict it, but when it came time to stick to your word, you couldn't do it. Emma keeps reminding herself that she doesn't like Jane Austen anymore, but then in the next scene she'll be rewatching the 1995 BBC miniseries of Pride and Prejudice like she has to get her fix or something. For heaven's sake, one of the times she reminds herself she hates Jane Austen is while halfway through a Jane Austen novel she's holding in her hands. I thought Lies Jane Austen Told Me was going to end with me thinking about Jane Austen in a new light, as a misunderstood woman with complicated ideas, but instead all it could bring itself to say is how great she was, how anyone who disagrees is misguided or a hater, and how people ought to think about love in the way she did, no matter how poorly that narrative fits into their lives. It even calls Austen the world's first feminist, which is frankly kind of offensive to 14th century medieval court writer Christine de Pizan, but that's beside the point. The point is that I did my hair, and I took extra time with my makeup, and I put on my best subversion of genre dress, and you stood me up. What am I supposed to think now? Am I supposed to continue on as if nothing happened, hoping that not all romance books are fangirl homages like yours? Or do I let this be the last straw and give up and decide that there isn't a single genre-subverting Mormon romance novel out there? You could have been better than this, lies Jane Austen told me. It didn't have to end this way. Uh-oh, looks like it's time to end the book review. Join us next time as we round out our tour of contemporary romances with Always Will by Melanie Jacobson. If you liked the video, consider promoting it by writing it into several chapters of your memoirs or naming a character in your next fantasy novel, Mern Burr the Wizard, before sending it to a major publishing house for distribution. See you next month.